Hi, my name is Kristin Kaufman, and welcome to Have a Seat with Kristin. Today, we're going to actually talk about the difference between setting boundaries for oneself and holding up your end of a responsibility. You know, the whole concept of setting boundaries for ourselves has become very popular in today's world, and I'm a huge believer in setting boundaries. As an INFJ, and for those of y'all who are not familiar with what that acronym means, I'm an introverted, intuitive feeling judger, which means I really love to get energy and refuel and recharge my batteries by being by myself. So boundaries are very important to me as an INFJ. However, that does not relinquish my responsibility to my clients, to my constituents, to my friends and family members. And responsibilities are inherent to the human condition. And setting boundaries for the sake of setting boundaries does not relinquish that responsibility. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how to set healthy boundaries and when setting boundaries is really not setting boundaries. It's more about not holding up your end of the bargain or your end of the responsibility. So the first thing is, I'm a huge believer that values, our value set, whatever they are, should inform how we set boundaries. So for example, if your family is really important to you, then that needs to be a North Star on how you set boundaries. If supporting your team or supporting the people with whom you work is of paramount importance to you, then clearly that needs to inform boundaries relative to work and making that a priority. If perhaps your health is a value for you, then setting boundaries around that workout time, that meditation time, taking care of yourself by going to see a doctor or a dentist, that needs to inform your boundaries. So again, your value set is unique to you, and only you can tell yourself really what values need to take priority over another, because I do recognize that there are conflicting values oftentimes in our daily lives. However, there are certain things, values are one of them, that can help inform how to make those decisions. And I'll give you a perfect example. You know, over the last couple of years, many of you all who have followed me know that I lost both of my parents. My father fell and died rather suddenly. He lived for 2 weeks after he had a terrible fall. My mother suffered from dementia and Alzheimer's and lived for about 18 months after my father passed. It was a priority for me to spend as much time with my mother as possible. So I basically moved home to Hot Springs, Arkansas. I still worked and I still had my home here in Dallas and I still had my business here in Dallas, but my clients knew that 99% of my meetings with them were going to be on Zoom or on the phone, because it was a priority for me to spend time with my mom. That's just one example. It does not mean that I'm going to relinquish responsibilities for other things that are pertinent in my life, but it just means that I may have to address or meet that responsibility in a different way. That's just one example of how boundaries and responsibilities need to be married, and we need to be conscious about how we choose them in relation to our value system. Okay, the second thing, and I work with my clients on this all the time. We have to teach people how we want to be treated. And that can oftentimes feel uncomfortable, particularly if you are new to the professional world. Oftentimes women in particular are almost apologetic for asking for more time to do a project, asking for a raise, wanting to make more money, needing to take a day off because you want to be with your children when they graduate from high school. I'm just using these as examples. But we learn over time that we teach people how we want to be treated. And it doesn't mean that we need to be obstinate or non-flexible when it comes time for setting boundaries, but it does mean that we need to set expectation about how we want to be treated. And there's a wonderful book entitled The Power of the Positive No by William Ury. And it's a wonderful book that I use often with my clients on how you can actually learn to say no, and by default, teach other people how you want to be treated, and do so in a way that is not so rigid and not obstinate. It's a way to say no by saying yes to something else. And again, that's a topic for an entirely different video, which I probably will do in a couple of days, but it's all about how to say no in a positive way. And by doing so, you are teaching people how to treat you. So that is point number 2. Point number 3, on how to juggle that nuance between boundaries and responsibilities, is learn how to communicate. You know, my clients know that I'm a huge fan of the book, The 4 Agreements by Ruiz. And in the 4 agreements, there are 2 that stand out relative to communication. The first is make no assumptions. And the second is be impeccable with your word. And so when you're trying to set a boundary for your life, or set a boundary with someone who's wanting you to give more than you have to give, just number 1, by being honest, by being impeccable with your word about why you can't, give them what they think they need at that time, and making no assumptions that they're going to be upset if you say no. Just being honest and forthright and communicating what you can and cannot commit to is just, it's amazing to me how many times we don't do that. You know, we'll do anything we can to avoid a confrontation, when in reality, just by communicating honestly like that, it's simply amazing, frankly, how it lands and how receptive people are to letting you off the hook, so to speak, if there's something that they needed or wanted you to do. And the last piece, which is, I think, pretty basic, is just simply having respect for one another. And, I personally hate it when I feel like I'm being taken advantage of, or I feel like somebody is not holding up their end of the bargain. They're letting somebody else carry the heavy load. And as a dear friend of mine uses this wonderful adage, letting that person do cigarette butt duty, or in other words, doing all of the heavy lifting. Just on both sides of that coin, just having respect for one another, respect for other people's time, respect for other people's businesses, respect for other people's priorities and family orientation, and just frankly, free time. Just having respect and treating people with the respect that you would like to be treated with just goes so far when you're trying to make and establish healthy boundaries while not giving up the sacred responsibilities that we have, whether that be toward our family, our friends, our volunteer work, or our business. So with that, that was something that I wanted to just share relative to how to set boundaries, what the distinction is between boundaries and responsibilities. I work with my clients on this sort of thing all the time because it really never goes away. With every job, we have new responsibilities and we have new people that we're working with. So with that, thank you so much for joining me. Again, my name is Kristin Kaufman. You've just had a seat with Kristin. Every once in a while, we come on here to talk about pressing challenges or decisions or judgment calls that we as leaders and professionals need to make. And I work with my clients with my Business Alignment Inc. on situations and challenges like this every day. Hopefully this has been a benefit to you. I would love to hear your comments below. And if you'd like to reach out to me and talk to me about any challenges that you might be facing in your current professional situation, I would love nothing more. Just comment below or private message me and we'll make it happen. With that, make it a great day. And I hope to see you right back here on the next episode of Have a Seat with Kristin.